My name is David Anderson. I'm 70 years old. A year ago, I thought I was waiting to die. Not because I was sick. Not because I was poor. Not because my children had abandoned me. I simply couldn't remember the last time I had felt needed. People imagine loneliness as an empty house. They're wrong. Loneliness is eating breakfast in complete silence because there's no one left to ask how you slept. It's buying groceries for one person and automatically reaching for your wife's favorite cereal before remembering she isn't coming home anymore. For 43 years, Margaret and I built a beautiful life together in Reno, Nevada. We weren't rich. We weren't famous. But we laughed every single day. When cancer took her away, it didn't just take my wife. It stole the future we had imagined together. After the funeral, everyone told me the same thing. Stay strong. Time heals. You'll get through this. They meant well, but none of them came home with me that night. The silence did. Emily called every Sunday. Daniel texted almost every day. My grandchildren never forgot my birthday. I was loved. I never doubted that. But love from a distance cannot fill every empty hour. My children had jobs, school events, mortgage payments, soccer games. Their lives kept moving. Mine stood perfectly still. Every morning, I woke up at 5:30. My body still believed I had somewhere to be. I'd shower, shave, make coffee. Then I'd sit by the kitchen window watching the same street become busy without me. Construction workers, school buses, delivery trucks. Everyone had somewhere important to go. Except me. One rainy evening, while scrolling through travel videos online, I found a retired American couple walking through a night market in Taiwan. There were no fancy hotels, no luxury resorts, just ordinary people laughing, eating, and living their lives. For some reason, I watched the entire video. Then another, and another. Within a month, Taiwan had become part of my nightly routine. I learned about its trains, its healthcare system, its mountain villages, its night markets, its people. One sentence stayed with me. A retiree looked into the camera and said, "Sometimes you don't need a new life. You only need a place that lets you begin again." I couldn't stop thinking about those words. 6 months later, I rented out my house instead of selling it, packed 2 suitcases, bought a one-way ticket, and flew across the Pacific. Emily thought I was having a late-life crisis. Daniel thought I'd be back within 3 months. Honestly, so did I. Taichung wasn't what I expected. It was louder, warmer, more colorful, more alive. Scooters buzzed past like schools of fish. Street vendors greeted customers by name. Grandparents walked grandchildren to school before sunrise. Everywhere I looked, people seemed connected. During my first week, I got lost almost every day. Google Maps confused me. My terrible Mandarin confused everyone else. One afternoon, I accidentally ordered 6 bowls of noodles instead of 1. The restaurant owner laughed so hard she nearly dropped the chopsticks. Then she quietly canceled the extra 5 bowls without charging me. "Tomorrow," she smiled. "You try again." That simple kindness stayed with me all day. Every morning after that, I walked through Calligraphy Greenway. At first, nobody noticed me. Then, little things began to change. The woman at the coffee stand remembered my order. The bakery owner started waving whenever I passed by. A security guard outside a nearby office building greeted me with the same cheerful, "Good morning, David." I froze the first time I heard my name. It had been months since someone outside my own family remembered it. One cool Saturday morning, I stopped beside a small pond where an elderly Taiwanese man was feeding turtles. Without looking up, he asked in perfect English, "You're the American who walks here every day, aren't you?" I smiled. "I guess I am." He laughed. "My wife says you've become part of the neighborhood." That was the first time I met Mr. Lin. At the time, I thought it would be nothing more than a pleasant conversation between two retired strangers. I couldn't have been more wrong. Because that morning, a simple invitation for tea would quietly begin changing not only my life, but the lives of my children as well. I almost didn't knock on Mr. Lin's door. For nearly 5 minutes, I stood outside his apartment building with a small box of cookies in my hands. Back in America, people often said things they didn't really mean. "We should have lunch sometime. Let's keep in touch. Come visit whenever you're in town." Most of those invitations quietly disappeared with time. I wondered if this one was any different. Just as I turned to leave, the apartment door swung open. "There you are, Mrs." Lynn smiled as though she had been expecting me all morning. "We thought you got lost." "I almost convinced myself not to come," I admitted. She laughed softly. "Then today is already a good day." The smell reached me before I even stepped inside. Fresh ginger, sesame oil, steamed rice, something slowly simmering in a clay pot. For a brief moment, I wasn't standing in Taiwan anymore. I was back in my own kitchen nearly 20 years earlier. Margaret was humming an old Beatles song while stirring soup on a rainy afternoon. Memories have a strange way of hiding inside ordinary smells. Lunch wasn't fancy. Braised pork rice, stir-fried vegetables, fish soup, fresh fruit afterward. But somehow, it became one of the best meals I'd eaten in years. Not because of the food, because nobody rushed through it. "Mr. Lynn asked me about America." "Mrs." Lynn wanted to know what snow looked like in Nevada. Their daughter Grace laughed every time I mispronounced a Mandarin word. Instead of correcting me immediately, she patiently taught me until I finally got it right. For the first time in years, I wasn't eating just to satisfy my hunger. I was enjoying someone's company. Just as lunch was ending, the front door burst open. A little boy rushed inside wearing a bright blue backpack, almost bigger than he was. "Grandma, I'm hungry." He stopped the moment he noticed me. His eyes grew wide with curiosity. "Who's he?" "Mrs." Lynn smiled. "This is David. He's our American friend." The boy walked directly toward me without the slightest hesitation. "My name is Ethan." He held out his tiny hand. I shook it. "It's nice to meet you." He looked at me for a second before asking the most unexpected question. "Can I call you Grandpa David?" The entire room became silent. I didn't know what to say. Then everyone laughed, including me. "I'd be honored," I finally answered. From that day on, the nickname stayed. Every Saturday, Ethan waited for me downstairs after his piano lesson. Sometimes we'd walk through the nearby park feeding pigeons. Other afternoons we'd sit beside a small pond watching turtles climb onto warm rocks. His English wasn't perfect. My Mandarin was even worse. Yet somehow, we always understood each other. Children don't care where you're from. They only care whether you're willing to listen. A few weeks later, Mr. Lin asked if I wanted to help him at a local community center. "What kind of help?" I asked. "Conversation practice. There are retirees learning English before traveling. They're tired of textbooks. They just want someone to talk with." I almost said no. I had never been a teacher. I wasn't qualified. Mr. Lin simply smiled. "You don't need to teach grammar. You only need to share your stories." The following Wednesday, I walked into a classroom filled with 12 smiling faces. Some were retired engineers. Others had spent their lives farming, running restaurants, or raising families. They welcomed me as though I'd been coming there for years. One elderly woman asked me about Yellowstone National Park. Another wanted to know whether New York really looked like the movies. Someone else asked what Thanksgiving dinner tasted like. For 2 hours, we laughed more than we studied. As class ended, one gentleman slowly stood and bowed slightly. "Thank you for speaking with us today. I haven't practiced English in almost 15 years." Walking home that afternoon, I realized something that caught me completely by surprise. Someone had needed me today. Not because I could fix a bridge, not because I could earn a paycheck, simply because I had time, experience, and stories worth sharing. That evening I called Emily as I always did on Sundays. She smiled the moment the video connected. "Dad, you look different." "Different how?" "Happier." I looked at my own reflection in the phone screen. The wrinkles were still there. The gray hair hadn't disappeared. But something had changed. My eyes no longer looked tired all the time. "I've made a few friends," I said. Emily smiled politely. "I'm glad." Yet, for just a brief second, I noticed something behind her smile. A flicker of uncertainty. Almost as if she couldn't understand how a country on the other side of the world had given her father something she hadn't seen in years. I didn't realize it then, but that tiny moment of hesitation would soon grow into fear. And fear has a way of convincing good people to believe the worst. 3 months passed faster than I expected. The seasons changed almost without me noticing. The humid summer slowly gave way to cooler evenings. The maple trees around Calligraphy Greenway began turning shades of gold and crimson. Somehow, Taiwan no longer felt like a place I was visiting. It felt like home. Every morning followed a simple rhythm. At 7 o'clock, Mrs. Chen at the coffee stand would already have my Americano waiting. "Good morning, David," she'd call before I reached the counter. Across the street, the owner of the bakery always waved through the window. "Mr." Lynn and I would meet in the park just after sunrise. Sometimes we walked in silence. Sometimes we debated history, baseball, or which noodle shop served the best beef noodles in Taichung. I had stopped counting the days. For the first time since Margaret passed away, life no longer felt like something I had to survive. It felt like something I wanted to wake up for. One Saturday afternoon, Ethan invited me to watch his school talent show. "I play the piano," he said proudly. "But don't laugh if I make a mistake." "I promise," I replied. "I'll only clap louder." The school auditorium was packed with parents and grandparents. Colorful drawings covered the walls. Children rushed backstage wearing oversized costumes. I found myself sitting between Mr. and Mrs. Lin, cheering for a boy who wasn't related to me by blood. Yet, when Ethan walked onto the stage, I felt exactly the same nervous excitement I used to feel watching Emily perform in her elementary school concerts. After his performance, he ran straight toward me. "Grandpa, David, did I do okay?" I smiled. "You did better than okay. You were brave enough to stand on that stage. That's something many adults never learn to do." "Mrs." Lynn quietly snapped a photograph of the two of us standing together. Neither of us knew. That picture would soon change everything. That evening, I posted the photo on Facebook. It wasn't anything special. Just Ethan smiling with one missing front tooth, and me standing beside him with my arm resting gently on his shoulder. My caption was simple. Some families are born into your life. Others quietly welcome you when you least expect it. I put my phone away and didn't think about it again. 2 days later, Emily called unexpectedly. Her voice sounded different. Tighter, more cautious. "Dad, who is that little boy?" "Oh," I smiled. "That's Ethan. Mr. Lynn's grandson." "And why is he calling you Grandpa?" I laughed softly. "It started as a joke. Now everyone calls me that." Emily didn't laugh. "Dad, how often are you with these people?" I thought about it. 3, maybe 4 times a week. Silence. Then she asked the question I never expected. "Do they know how much money you have?" For a moment, I honestly thought she was joking. "They've never asked me about money," I answered. "But do they know?" "I don't think so. And even if they did, why would it matter?" Emily took a deep breath. "I've been reading stories online. Older Americans moving overseas, getting manipulated, losing their savings, signing over property." I closed my eyes. Suddenly, I understood. She wasn't accusing me of being foolish. She was terrified of losing me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was angry, because I realized how different our worlds had become. Emily saw photographs. I saw friendships. She saw strangers. I saw neighbors. She saw danger. I saw kindness. Neither of us was trying to hurt the other. We were simply looking at the same life through completely different windows. The following Sunday, Daniel called. Unlike his sister, he came straight to the point. "Dad, I need you to promise me something." "What is it?" "If anyone asks you to invest money, say no. If anyone asks you to lend them money, say no. If anyone asks you to sign legal documents, call me first." I couldn't help smiling sadly. "Daniel, the people here aren't trying to take anything from me." His answer came almost immediately. "That's exactly what people always think, until it's too late." 3 days later, as I finished volunteering at the community center, my phone buzzed. One message from Emily, one from Daniel, then another, and another. Finally, Emily wrote just one sentence. "Daniel and I have already booked our flights to Taiwan." I stared at the screen. For a long time, I couldn't bring myself to reply. Because deep inside, I knew exactly why they were coming. They weren't coming for a vacation. They weren't coming to experience Taiwan. They weren't coming to meet my friends. They were coming to take their father home